Oh, I have had enough of this cold. I have had enough of this cold. I sincerely hope that it disappears super quick, but it's hanging around. But good evening, ladies and gentlemen, everybody in the house. How we doing? How we doing? How we doing? Bit of a eventful Monday, especially in my life, in a day in the life of Hot Fuzz. It's been an interesting day, plenty going on, very laborious morning to say the least, doing gardening and all that. Um, Probably one of the last things that people would expect me to be doing or filling my day with, but each to their own. Plus, there's a neat little paycheck on the way as well, so I can't really go wrong with that. You know, happy to help out where I can. But we are back, and what are we going to be discussing about today? What are we going to be doing today? Well, there's quite a few topics to discuss, quite a few things to discuss. We got Rashford new contract is supposed to be being announced here today by Fabrizio Romano. It's also been discussed on the United Stand show as well, which I haven't actually watched yet, by the way, because I'm a busy guy. I'm a busy bloke. I haven't got too much time to sit down and watch many other shows. It sort of gets to the evening and I watch what everyone else is talking about, and basically sometimes I'll theme my shows based off what other people will say, but other times I'll just pick and choose topics that I feel like I feel the need that I need to discuss, and I need to react to. I probably want people to see what I'm saying and make up their own minds as to whether my opinions are clapped or whether they think I speak sense. Who knows? Maybe I'm just the ramblings of a I sound like a ramblings of a madman, but yeah, quite possibly the ramblings of a madman. But anyhow, we're going to start with Marcus Rashford with the new contract. The new contract for Sir Marcus Rashford. Now, some people, I've seen someone's renamed Marcus Rashford to Marcus P. Rashford, as for PR Ashford, because knowing how the British media like to write about our beloved star boy, and and based off of how we could essentially have the qualifications or the backing, the moral backing to go into Parliament and run for Prime Minister. Maybe that's what he does. Maybe that's what he does when he finishes his career and hangs up his boots. Maybe you go into politics. Maybe he becomes the next Prime Minister. You never know. It's a bit like Dwayne The Rock Johnson hanging up his wrestling boots and acting career to go pursue being President of the United States of America. I mean, who knows if that's what he fancies doing? Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. Who knows? The world is your oyster, and especially if you're that rich, that filthy rich, especially for with the wages that Marcus is probably going to be getting. Rumor has it, about 325,000 a week. I think it is. I suppose the question really surrounding the new contract is whether is £325,000 a week warranted? Oh, hello. Big up Stefan from the United Philosophy. Just finished his stream as well, by the way. I was watching that. It's a very good show. Big ups to you, Stefan. Quality content, so do be sure to go check out his channel and drop him some subscriptions and drop into his live shows and interact, join in the conversations. Some really good content on there. But seeing Maguire linked to Saudi Arabia, bro, let's hope, man, I'm sincerely hoping that there is absolutely legs to this. I mean, I can't imagine that Saudi clubs are looking at Maguire completely just, yeah, no, Maguire's great. He's fantastic. World class. I mean, I'm pretty sure most people in Saudi Arabia know that Maguire is essentially a banter player. I'm pretty confident. I am pretty confident. But then again, we say he's a banterous player, but we've just watched, supposedly, Jordan Henderson be handed a 700k a week contract. in a Saudi league. I'm like, Matt, Jordan Henderson, that's Messi's wages. That's Ronaldo's wages. Why's Jordan Henderson getting 700k a week? So perhaps, fingers crossed, if there is transfer links for Maguire to go out to Saudi Arabia, that they follow it up by offering a stupid dumbass contract. Please offer him 500,000 a week. I'm telling you, Harry Maguire is on the next plane to Saudi Arabia. He's on the next plane. Don't think anyone can complain too much on his wages when we pay Sancho 350k and Maguire 250k. I suppose that whilst that's true, at the same time, this is being negotiated by the same board that introduced Richard Arnold, the CEO of Manchester United, introduced the no dickheads policy. Everyone was going to have their wages cut, sliced straight down the middle. Everyone's going to be price capped. Essentially, I think it was rumored at the time that there was going to be a salary cap, that everyone would be capped down to 200k a week, to then, if they warranted it, can renegotiate for contract extensions to get more money. Where's that gone? Where's that gone? Because supposedly there's a no dickheads policy once Ronaldo got sacked, because it was like the anti-Ronaldo policy, which I thought in and of itself was stupid. It was a stupid thing to do, because you're basically just making more enemies than friends with something as divisive as that. But Sancho 350k a week, that's the thing. Even without the Champions League qualification, because Maguire especially, right, as a prime example, 200k a week, gets Champions League qualification straight away, 20% increase is part of the contract. So imagine what people, when they were looking at wages last season, and you'd see the list of players, and you see all the people earning like 300k upwards. Imagine what they're earning now with this Champions League, with the Champions League 20% wage increase. It's ridiculous. It's like, I see followed up with another comment here. Richard Arnold also promised us De Jong and had 2 holidays in Barcelona with Mercer last year. If you told me it was raining, I'd put my head out the window to check. I mean, yeah, Jesus Christ. I mean, Richard Arnold, I can tell you right now from what vibes I get from him, he sort of gives me the vibes where he's a bit of a snake, right? He's a snake. He's the perfect businessman. He's a snake. If he can get ahead in life, he will sell everyone out. He'll absolutely sell everyone else down the river. It's much like how he supposedly, very publicly, based off of how it was covered, spoke about Edward Ward, one of his best mates in the business, and supposedly how, oh well, we spent like £1 billion on the squad and around the club, and you look around and you just, but where is it? Where is the £1 billion? So he's basically stabbed his bestie Ed Woodward in the back, but then he's also trying to spin PR narratives so that it makes him look better, and he's already played the victim card. Oh, lo and behold, John Murtaugh also playing victim cards. You see it this summer with some of the transfer window stories, like, oh, but we don't like Chelsea. They're not really easy to deal with. They're being idiots. They're making me look bad, guys. They're making me look bad. Seriously, it's all just to cover their asses, to play the victim cards. I don't actually think he's as much of a liar as he's just a flat out incompetent. I think it's both. 100%. I think it is both. He is both a compulsive liar, and that's the thing. This is the thing. Is you'll see it, right, with PR stories and all of that, when you can tell when something happens, and you're like, oh, for God's sakes, like this is stupid. A bit like the situation with Manchester United going out on a US pre-season tour without a striker. I mean, what in God's earth are we thinking? Like, we're supposed to be backing a manager. The transfer window's been open since June 10th. Where is a striker? Why did it take as long for us to sign Mason Mount when we found a compromise that quick? Where is Onana been all this time? And the fact that we're hearing now that he might not be able to fly until later in the week to do his medical. We are literally gone just after Wednesday. Probably flying out to America next day. Hell, who knows? Maybe we're flying out same day. We're playing in Edinburgh and we're straight on the plane. Man, Arsenal, I think this is the first preseason game we play against them out there. They're already out there. They're boot camping. They're preparing for the game. We're going out there straight away. So, listen, if Alana's getting his medical and he's going on this US tour, Jesus Christ, he has got to sort it out super quick. And that's one quality about Manchester United board that we know, case in point. They don't do speed. They will not do speed. It's one of the things I've never understood. Glazers love money and not spending big, so why do they employ the worst negotiators in the game? Because they're also, it's all interlinked, right? It's like this cosmic web. It's like, like the neurons in your brain or something, when you see these scientific videos where it goes through like the neurons in your brain and you see all this like webbing and all of that, and it's just like, oh, this is all the electrons going through your brain. It's like they're all linked to each other in that sort of fashion. They're all linked to each other because these guys have been professional blame deflectors for the best part of a decade. When Sir Alex Ferguson and David Gill were in charge, they were football-minded people. So they did a good job on the footballing front, but they were also limited in various aspects. And I mean, sometimes you heard from Sir Alex Ferguson, even he was spinning some narratives that, oh, there's no value in the market. He would only ever say that if someone else could spend more than Manchester United in a transfer window. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. But it's all to deflect the blame of the Glazers. And we've sussed it out. We've sussed it out for a little while now. And everyone calls it out. And that's why you see perhaps some PR statement come out from the club. And straight away we turn around to them and just like, we don't buy this. Shut up. We don't buy it. It's like the statements from Murto when he starts crying about, oh, well, the clubs have fleeced us. I mean, you've negotiated like absolute twats for the longest time. No wonder you walk into a boardroom and everyone's wearing Murto masks as though to be like, oh, look, it's the clown. He's walked in. He's walked in again. What are you going to do? Offer us what? Like Arsenal with the £1 bid for Luis Suarez. You're going to take the mick in that fashion again. Seriously. Absolutely. Rooney was made the villain for calling it out in 2011. He was made the villain for calling it out in 2011. Cristiano Ronaldo was made the villain for calling it out in 2022. Seriously, it's like people will call out Cristiano Ronaldo for doing this interview with Piers Morgan, right? And on the basis of things, it's mental, it's madness that a player contracted to a club goes out and speaks to someone who essentially stirs shit. Piers Morgan will stir shit, right? Sometimes he speaks facts, sometimes he stirs shit, but you get the point. It's mental that a contracted player goes out to do an interview with Piers Morgan, sits down, and then starts calling the club out. This is like, oh, the owners, they don't care. The people who pay my wages, they don't care about this club. So he straight the second those words came out. Now, if he had just done a simple interview where he doesn't talk about the club that much, or he says, oh, well, Manchester United, they're a fantastic club, and oh, the bosses, the big bosses, they're brilliant people, they're wonderful people. That interview would have been swept under the carpet, and everyone would have just carried on their merry way. But Ronaldo, the second he sees bullshit and starts calling it out, straight away, gone, bye-bye. British press comes out, Ronaldo, a crazy interview. and everyone's just calling him out. Everyone's just like, "Oh, Ronaldo's, you know, oh, he's not a real one. Think about what he's done to Erik ten Hag and how he's undermined the whole team." He is the only person, right, on a payroll in football, right, that has actually had the balls to call out the Glazer ownership. Gary, like, it's not the same as Gary Neville calling out the ownership because he's a pundit. He's paid to react and to have opinions, which, by the way, half of his opinions are completely fabricated to spin a positive narrative. Yet still. So, I mean, as a prime example, like him complaining about players going to Saudi Arabia, saying, "Oh, that's a big problem. It's not fair." Well, the Premier League has been doing what Saudi Arabia has been doing for like several decades now. So I don't know what you're crying about. But anyways, it's like it's not the same when Gary Neville calls out the Glazer ownership to a player that actually plays for Manchester United and who gets paid by the Glazers calling out the ownership. But he gets villainized. The second he does it, he gets villainized because it upsets the apple cart and it's basically taking the narrative down the other way. So you're not spinning the same club PR. But anyways, trying to get back onto, try and put the train back on the rails here for a little while before I start going on a rant about something else as well. But supposedly, yeah, 300. This was from Hearst Class or Chardunker. Supposedly 325k a week. Personally, it's just complementative to the destructive nature of our board negotiations. Basically, just screwing up the wage structures again. But I mean, they've been doing it for 10 years, so why stop now? Why stop now? Also, 5-year deal. It's a 5-year extension. So that essentially, I mean, what I rate with Rashford, or how I rate Rashford, he's a good player. He's a good player. He's very technically gifted. I think Ten Hag and working with Ten Hag and Benny McCarthy's definitely helped him to be a bit more intelligent with this. Like to use his head a bit more in the game, so he doesn't look like he's just cruising from minute 1 to 90 every week. Like he's actually like his head is in the game, like he's concentrating. Like he'll impose himself where he's actually more of a threat to the opposition's defense. So, I mean, big ups to Rashford for actually, improving himself, improving his game, and actually putting himself forwards, and actually having more of an impact going forwards. And especially with the season that he's just had as well, which is pretty good. It's pretty good, even though he's sort of half come from left wing and half come from the striker's position. To have his goal scoring record, it's actually pretty good. But I see some people will say, well, he's world class. It's not to me. Not to me. Marcus Rashford, not worth 325k a week for starters. Not worth 325k a week. Now, some pro Rashford people will say, "Oh, he is. I'd pay him 400k. I'd pay him 500k." Seriously, he's not worth that. He's not worth that. It's like Mohamed Salah on this wage, right? Only earns what 25,000 a week more. Before, like that's Mohamed Salah's latest contract, right? But the contract that he had before that, what was that? What 150,000 or 140,000 a week? Mohamed Salah was on. Marcus Rashford has had a slightly higher pay rise, but it's just like, well, Mohamed Salah got 350k a week thereabouts, but he warranted it because of like his mad goal scoring records and the numbers he's put up for Liverpool every single season. Marcus Rashford's had one good season, and straight away we're all, "Oh my God, Sir Marcus Rashford, sign him on for life, sign him on for life." It's like, now this is the thing, it's like Harry Maguire, if he had one insane season, right? It's all, no, here's a better example, because this has actually happened. Granit Xhaka for Arsenal plays like absolute shit for however many 7 seasons or 6 or 7 seasons, and then has one good season, right? And this is the thing. The Arsenal fan base were absolutely, they were just done with him. They were ready for him to go. They were ready for him to leave. One good season, and you hear chants, Granit Xhaka, we want you to stay. Please don't leave, Granit. Banners out in the Emirates. Seriously, fans are fickle like that. Fans are absolutely fickle. They want him to sign a lifetime contract. Why? Because he had one good season. Listen, Marcus Rashford's contract was running down, absolutely. But elite clubs don't take a player like Rashford and say, okay, you had one fantastic season this season. Here's a lifetime contract for you. Mate, last summer, I wanted Rashford gone because his head wasn't here. His head wasn't there. His head was everywhere else that wasn't Manchester United. Like, man was finished at the club. So I wanted him gone last summer, and it stemmed from me watching game after game after game, Rashford not running after the ball, not battling, not caring. Manchester derby, couldn't care less, no effort, no drive, no passion, no fight for the shirt. Oh, was it all because of Ralph Rangnick? You mean the one guy that factually called the club's problems out and got sacked for it? But it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. So one good season is absolutely enough to warrant signing a player to a lifetime contract, according to quite a few of the top fans of each respective club. So it's clapped. It's a clapped mentality to go with. Absolutely clapped mentality to go with. But each to their own. I won't tell people that you have to think differently. I'm just stating what's out there. I'm just stating how I think and how I feel and how my mind works. So if you agree with that or if you disagree with that, it's entirely up to you. And I ain't going to sit here and think less of you if you want to think differently, because that's the thing. It's a free thing. It's a free thinking world. So you can go ahead with it. I'll just say, well, look, if you think like that, then that's cool, that's fine. But I'll just say, from my perspective, to think like that is clapped. But you can think what you want, because I mean, it doesn't actually degrade you as a person by any means. But anyhow, so next piece of news we'll go on to is Rasmus HOJLAND. Rasmus HOJLAND, or £65 million, was supposedly a rumoured figure that would stir interest, potential interest. And the question regarding this, I guess people will probably want to analyse, is Rasmus HOJLAND worth £65 million? Is Rasmus HOJLAND worth that sort of fee? Because I'm all for bigging up a player and saying, look, he's got good potential, he's got a promising future and all of that. He's young, like 21 years old. I'm all for backing a player to do well in the future and grow it, to grow as a player and to improve over time, but also having an impact once they join the club. I'm absolutely all for that. And I think, Rasmus HOJLAND as a player, I would say, yeah, no, cool. That, like, if we sign him, if it was my perfect world, I'd want him as your backup striker or a third choice striker. Someone that's going to learn from a senior selection, right? A senior player that's going to fill in and eventually mold into the finished article. That's just my perfect world with how I'd want HOJLAND to come in. So with that in mind, I then see a £65 million price tag on HOJLAND and think, no, not for me. Not for me. 65 million. And now, a bloated market, you can say that all you want, but there's more value to signing Gonzalo Ramos for 80 million than there is for signing Rasmus Højlund for 65 million. I just think there is a better value. Like, you're spending 80 million on more guaranteed quality than you would with Rasmus Højlund, just on the sole, like straight up sole basis, on the quality of the player and the value respective to the asking prices. I'll just see there's more value. I just see there's more value in Gonzalo Ramos for 80 million, because I think, as far as Rasmus Højlund is concerned, but Rasmus Højlund has not actually had a very successful campaign. He's not had a very lucrative campaign. I mean, last season in the league, played 32 games with 9 goals and 2 assists. Not that great. And here's the thing. Let's introduce the tax, right? Let's introduce the Premier League tax. When you look at a player that plays in the Serie A, that plays in the Bundesliga, that plays in Liga, or maybe not so much Liga, but plays in these other leagues, right, where people will spend every minute of every hour of every day saying, that league's a farmers league, that league's a farmers league, that league's only got one team competing for it, that league has only got teams that are mediocre quality, oh, it's a really slow league, oh, the defenses aren't that good, oh, strikers can have field days in those leagues. Serie A gets labelled a farmers league a fair amount. People say, oh, well, the league's slower and all of that. So you've got to pace a young striker in Rasmus Højlund, 21 years of age. If he's got that level of quality, shouldn't he be getting more goals than 9 in 32 games? This is with Atalanta as well, by the way, who are quite renowned as being one of your more goal-scoring Serie A teams. Like, make no mistake, Atalanta is like, who remembers the season in like during lockdown? Atalanta in the Champions League were just playing teams off the park. Like, I think they've still got the same manager from back then. So the style of football hasn't essentially changed. And Atalanta do play to score goals and score lots of goals. I mean, Napoli did it like streets better than everyone else last season. But Atalanta, with a system that it works to incorporate scoring lots of goals, with someone like Rasmus Højlund, you would assume that for someone who's got pace, who's got some power, who's got stature, you'd assume he'd have some goal threat in the air as well. So you'd probably imagine that 9 shouldn't be 9 in terms of how many goals he scored, but probably should be looking about 15 upwards. 15 goals upwards, I could say, okay, well, it's extortionate. Like 65 million is an extortionate fee to pay, but he's coming in with a bit of backing to it. It's like what some, what is it, Lee Gunner? How he works it out is a Bundesliga. Take Bundesliga for example. A striker, his goals tally, just slice that in half, should accumulate to what sort of a goal tally they would be setting as a minimum in the Premier League, because that's the thing. When unless you get crazy anomalies like Erling Haaland, right, who come from the farmers leagues and then just absolutely smash pretty much every goal scoring record on paper or in the history books in his debut season, then again, it was with Manchester City. They like to set up goals for fun. So, I mean, it's to be expected. But then you take someone like Rasmus Højlund coming in with 9 goals in 32 games and to spend 65 million. Let this sink in. We'd spend more money on Rasmus Højlund with a by far a worse goal scoring record compared to Erling Haaland. And we'd be spending more on Rasmus Højlund than City did on Erling Haaland. Release clause or not, City have ultimately, we sign Rasmus Højlund. What we're going to say? Oh, we've got a young striker who's going to score loads of goals for us. Yeah, but compare it to other striker acquisitions in terms like this is to do with like signing players or for a specific value. Erling Haaland for a release clause was what was it, 57 million pounds? I think it was. It might be cheaper than that. Correct me if I'm wrong if it's about 57 million pounds and then the release clause that City paid for Erling Haaland. But Rasmus Højlund with 9 goals in 32 games, 20 years old or not. I mean, it's levels. It's absolute levels. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. So, to summarise this point, would I be paying 65 million for Rasmus Højlund? Absolutely not. I wouldn't. But at the end of the day, if my manager is saying, well, I want Rasmus Højlund, I don't want anyone else, I haven't recognised anyone else, I haven't set aside alternative targets, then Rasmus Højlund, you back what the manager wants. Because at the end of the day, the manager's going to prove whether it was worth backing him or not. But that's the thing. What we want is to actually see the manager get what he wants and prove whether backing him was the right decision, as opposed to a board not believing in the manager and saying, well, actually, we're not going to fully back you this season. We want to save some money here. We don't want to spend this much money on that player. And then that manager being sold short and then sacking him that way. Listen, Erik ten Hag, if he is that good and he gets all the players he wants, when he wants them, right? If he says, yeah, I'm happy with that player, happy days. Get that player in, let him prove that that was the right choice. Because that's the minimum, that's the bare minimum that a club should be doing for its managers that it employs, right? I think it's as much of a long-term investment as we can get. We're paying for how good he could be, so there's an element of risk with it. Yeah, that's fair. It's fair enough to that as well. I just personally think that, I mean, comparing into other market alternatives, I think a lot of strikers this summer specifically are very much, bloated prices. I mean, if you wanted a striker with, some people will say it's not the out and out number 9 goal scorer, but for a striker in his respective club has got a better goal scoring record last season and assist record, by the way. So he actually sets up goals from the striker's position. Is Kolo Muani, I think, got 15 goals and 13 assists or 12 assists last season. Let me have a look. Pretty sure he did. Eintracht Frankfurt. So yeah, in the Bundesliga for Eintracht Frankfurt last season with 32 matches played, so same games in the league, right, as Rasmus Højlund, scored 15 goals with 11 assists. In the DFB Pokal with 6 matches played, scored 6 goals with 3 assists. Now, who would you, based off of stats alone, who would you prefer going for as a striker? Bearing in mind, Kolo Muani is 24 years of age, so essentially you can stick Kolo Muani on a much shorter contract, because that's the thing. Is if you buy someone like Rasmus Højlund, you would probably, at 20 years of age, you'll probably want to be negotiating for a very high value contract as well. We're going to overpay for anyone because clubs see us coming. We know we're desperate for players. Teams like City, etc., can afford to walk away on deals if it's more than what they want to pay. I think there's an element. I think there's an element to that, but at the same time, I was sort of debating it with myself. I was sort of contemplating it in my mind that the reason why everyone's, like, all the players' prices are so extortionately high, like bloated and everything, is actually because of clubs like us, when we've paid stupid money for players that are not worth the contract values. It's like, for example, Some people are saying Andre Onana, 47 million, thereabouts, right? 47 million pounds for Andre Onana. Oh, excellent piece of business. Fantastic deal. Like, that's genius work. Genius work from the United board. And it's like, but is it? Is it really? Andre Onana, with 47 million pounds, becomes the fourth most expensive goalkeeper transfer in the world. Fourth most expensive goalkeeper transfer in the world. I'll tell you what, 10 years ago, if you were to bid for someone about Onana's quality, you'd probably be looking about 15 million, 15 to 20 million pounds for a goalkeeper of Onana's quality. So actually, with the market inflating the way it has, essentially we're looking at players like Onana's quality going from price valuations about 20 million pounds on a good day, right, up to extortionate fees touching on 50 million. I mean, goalkeepers are one of the cheapest areas to acquire players in. One of the cheapest. So anyone who ends up spending stupid for a goalkeeper, Chelsea, sorry about that, I've still got a cold. It's honestly just ridiculous that anyone should spend more than 30 million for a goalkeeper to fill in for a first team position, considering that most other goalkeepers that you see for their respective clubs, like only one or two of them have surpassed the 40 million pound mark. So, in terms of going to overpay for players, we are to blame for that. We are essentially to blame for that. The sins. Yeah, I was going to use the sins of the father would be met upon the son, but I don't think that's quite. The correct terminology to use for that. But essentially, what I'm looking to say is, it's like karma, right? It's karma. It comes full circle, where you start to overpay. If you have just one freak summer where you're overspending once or twice for players, and it's just like, well, it's no big deal. It's no big deal, and everyone sort of brushes it off. The problem is when you do a second summer or January as well. So you do January, then the second summer, then the second January, and the third summer, and the third January. But every season, every single transfer window, every player you sign is above value. I mean, even take, for example, Eric Bailly. We signed him from Villarreal. What was it, £34 million? Correct me if I'm wrong, he was third choice centre back. Right, he was third choice centre back for Villarreal at the time of us signing him. I'm pretty sure he was. I'm pretty sure they had two starting players, and Eric Bailly was the third option. We spent £34 million for a young centre back who was third choice for Villarreal. So that's just it's an example in a collage. It's an example piece in a collage of transfer calamities. Maybe whether we can say that the profile of the signings has been bad, I think can be debated, right? Because at the same time, managerial appointments hasn't been so good either. So there's all sorts of mistakes where you can point a finger at a problem and say, oh, that problem's because of this. Then you go and say, well, that over there that caused this problem, well, that's actually because of that problem. And it's like you go point to point to point to point to point. You connect all the dots, and it's all sort of it's just a massive tree, like thousands of branches, thousands of twigs, all of that. You trace it all back down to root problem. At the end of the day, root cause of everything that goes wrong in Manchester United, right, stems from the Glazers. At the end of the day, the enabler for a lot of the problems, the enabler to allowing things to continue to go wrong, are the fans, is the fan base. Because fans can demand change on a unified front. You can do it. It is possible. There is case in point in all the other top leagues of elite clubs around the world, specifically in Europe, and technically in other countries where football is not a hobby sport, it's a religion. So you can usually see when fans are unhappy, they protest, they get mad, they get pissed, they take to the streets. Because football's a religion to them. For us, it's just a hobby, it's just a pastime. See, if fans worship, can you imagine if Manchester United had fans that worship the club like it was a religion? Can you imagine how big the protests for Glazers out would be? Can you imagine how big they would be? People would be travelling from all over the world not to see the game. They would be travelling from all over the world to go protest because fans would treat the club and football like it's a religion. So that's why I have a lot of time and respect for fans of other clubs in clubs like Argentina, Brazil, Colombia, well, pretty much all the South American clubs basically, and clubs around Europe as well. Those fans take the support of their club super serious. So when there's a problem, they will address it. They will address it, and they address it in a whole heck of a lot more force than we could ever do. But anyways, that's I think a topic for a day when we're discussing things to do with takeovers and potential riots occurring if the Glazers decide to be idiots and stay as at Manchester United. Which, fingers crossed, they actually see the light and decide actually it would kind of be a smart thing for us to go and sell the club. It would be a smart thing for us to do. But anyways, can't speak anything more on that matter, because otherwise we'll be here forever and ever and ever and ever. And what else can we say? Dean Henderson, supposedly now with Andre Onana being confirmed, does that mean the end? Does that spell the end for Dean Henderson? And Nottingham Forest, I think, will be a bit more relieved themselves that we've solved. Well, I say we've solved. I'll tell you what, Manchester United might be able to solve a situation by signing a goalkeeper. But Jesus Christ, I'll tell you what, they'll probably end up causing more spills and problems with all other business to do with a goalkeeper like Zion Suzuki and signing him as a backup goalkeeper. I'll tell you what, they'll probably make a complete hash out of that. Whether they decide to actually, sell Dean Henderson, because they might think, oh, but Dean Henderson, he might be a solid backup choice, He might be a solid second choice goalkeeper. And I saw it on Twitter when Mark Goldbridge said that Dean Henderson's been training with the United's first team for 2 weeks now. It's like, well, Dean Henderson's desperate to leave the club. Fans are arguably, and I say arguably because there are some nut jobs that want him to stay, but arguably, Dean Henderson, fans want him gone. He wants to go, but the club can't really decide what they absolutely want to certifiably do because there's things are still up in the air. Dean Henderson is still training with the first team. If they actually had issues, if they didn't have any like second guesses about the goalkeeper situation, right? Dean Henderson probably would have been sold ages ago because, and that to me is what's mad, is we've actually stopped the sale of Dean Henderson, even though he's technically a must-sell player because of David De Gea's situation and the Andre Onana situation. But if you're so certified that Andre Onana is the goalkeeper you want, and you've identified a plan B and a plan C to Andre Onana if that deal fails, straight away you've established, okay, we've got a plan We know what we want to do. We know who we want to sign. And if in case that goes tits up, we know who else we've got available. We know who else we can go for. Dean Henderson and David De Gea should have been one of the fastest exits from a club ever. From any club ever. But like from a method that does not consist of sacking a player, right? So David De Gea, basically his contract expired. The guy had legitimately not been contracted to the club for nearly a whole week before he eventually got to say, okay, now I've been told I can go. I'm like, bro, why are we leashing players that are not contracted to the club because we can't solve a situation? Dean Henderson should have been sold on the 10th of June when the window opened because he knew better than anyone, yes, I absolutely want to go back to Nottingham Forest on a permanent transfer. Please make it happen. Everyone in the fan base, when they say, well, we need to raise money from certain players, Dean Henderson tends to make everyone's list. So, I mean, we can debate as to how much we want to get from Dean Henderson. Some people will say 20, some will say 25, some will say 30. You know, it's up to you. It's up to you, guys, how much you would want to get, how much you would like to get, how much you think is realistic we could ask for someone like Dean Henderson. But the matter of the fact remains the same. That guy should have been gone. As he should have been one of the first departures because he knows where he wants to go. The club knows where he wants to go. And Nottingham Forest are eager to secure the signing of that player. But instead, we decided to completely, it's like you've got a pack of cards, right? And you're about to start playing a game. Let's say, for instance, for no reason whatsoever, let's play a game of Uno, right? So Manchester United, Nottingham Forest, and whoever else is involved with this game of Uno. It's like Manchester United own the cards. They're going to start sorting the game out and getting it all ready and all of that. But then what they decide to do is, right, we can solve this goalkeeping situation right now. Oh no, the cards, they've gone everywhere. They're all over the floor. What are we ever going to do? And it's like, fantastic. So a very simple situation has been made unbelievably complicated by an incompetent board. So for people who will say, Andre Onana, fantastic piece of business. They did not know what they wanted to do with David De Gea. They did not know what they wanted to do with Dean Henderson. They still don't know what they want to do with Tom Heaton. There's 3 goalkeepers. They don't know for the life of them what they want to do with them. So David De Gea eventually gets his break. He gets his break. Finally, I am free. I am free from the clutches of a stupid board that does not know how to run a football club. I am finally free of those chains. So David De Gea can go explore his options and go do whatever he wants, you know, and he can deserve it. He can deserve whatever it is that he wants to do. If he wants to go Saudi Arabia, that's up to him. All to him to do it. He can go to another club in Europe. That's up to him. No problems. No problems whatsoever. The thing that really grinds my gears as well about the whole goalkeeping situation, Dean Henderson was held for a week after his contract expired. So he's a free agent and we're holding him down. Dean Henderson, every single party and element surrounding Dean Henderson and any transfer business knows exactly what they want to do with Dean Henderson. They know so much what they want to do with Dean Henderson. Everyone's made their minds up. Why did you not follow through the actions? Why did you not complete the transfer? It's like saying, let's take an example here, right? Manchester United want to go sign Rasmus HOJLAND as the next priority target, right? They want to go sign Rasmus HOJLAND as the next priority target. They'll get all the deals done, right? They'll get it to the Andre Onana phase, right? Where the personal terms are essentially agreed, and the fees are agreed with payment structures and everything. And then Manchester United turn around and decide, we could absolutely pick up the phone right now and just say, yeah, we're all set on our side. We're ready to go. Atalanta would say, yes, that's absolutely fine. Thank you for the money. Here's the player. So they could do that. They could absolutely do that. But Manchester United, no. We're going to stop. We're going to put the brakes on this transfer move. But we're going to sit here with 99.99% completion on a pivotal and important target and signing and piece of transfer business that is absolutely necessary for the progression of this club. But what we're going to do is we're going to sit still and say, right, yeah, sunny weather, isn't it? It's lovely weather. You see that cloud? That cloud looks like Erling Haaland. Yeah, it's funny the way this world. It's like, what are you doing? What are you waiting for? You can do a piece of business right there and right now. You could legitimately sort out like an important transfer. You can sort it out like that because it completes itself. The player wants to move. The buying club is interested. The selling club knows they've got to get rid of the player. So why is Dean Henderson still training at the club? I can't answer the theory, the factual theory. I can only speculate. I can only imagine as to what the actual truth of the situation is. The cards are up in the air. I'm just guessing at this point. Had some connection issues there. Just wanted to make sure that my stream had not died. But essentially, Manchester United have all the cards laid out. They know exactly what they want to do, but they just like, nah. We could make this a simple business dealing. Nope, we don't want to do that. It's actually it's ironic that even on the transfer fronts, we're just completely and utterly like you can't see us doing anything competent on the transfer front for player incomings, but also player outgoings. The takeover process is in equal amount of mess. The club in its operations from top to bottom is absolutely screwed, completely screwed. Some people with their heads buried in the sand are trying to get little wins and positives out of this. I'm just like, my God, we are so far behind where we should be, so far away. But because we sign Onana for £47 million, or we sign Mason Mount for £65 million, I see people trying to spin those into positives. Now, listen, signing Mason Mount, great, fantastic. Ten Hag priority signing, brilliant. Andre Onana, David De Gea replacement, Eric Ten Hag target, fits the system, fantastic, brilliant. Rasmus HOJLAND, we could sign him tomorrow, fantastic. Ten Hag target, 3 for 3, lovely stuff. We're going in the right direction, people. But that's the point. Is everyone's saying, but everything's great now. We've signed what key targets for our manager. Everything's right with the world. So everything that was wrong, that everyone's ever complained about this club, doesn't matter anymore. Doesn't matter anymore. No problems, no dramas, no problems. It's all history. It doesn't matter. We're pastures new now. We're on a fresh page. It's the brand new book that's come out, and it's a brand new story. Lovely stuff, right? Sunshine and rainbows. Because we signed a couple of players that the manager wants. So the problems of this board, people will big up this board for doing the job that they should be doing as a bare minimum. But that's the thing. That's what's crazy. Is people are rewarding mediocrity again. They're rewarding mediocrity again. Literally, the barest minimum for this board is to sign the players that the manager wants. Now, first choice and second choice targets, you can't always get them. You can't always get them. And I understand that. And I've got no problems if we get priced out of the plan A and plan B. If we get priced out, that's absolutely fine. As long as that manager says, yeah, I'm happy with that player, now go and get me that player, and we can get him, then absolutely. But that is part and parcel. The bare minimum on actually how a club's board should operate. There is no excuses for a board to not operate on the bare minimum. There's no excuses for it. So just remember that when you see Man United make a signing under this ownership, under this board, and you see people typing in comments in reactions to the Fabrizio Romano "here we go" or the club statement or the club, doing the player reveal, and you see all the comments that say, "Oh, big up John Murto, I never doubted you." Oh, Jesus Christ. Makes me sick to even think about it, but it's just like, why are you applauding? It's like Edu. It's like Don Edu. I mean, come on. The guy signs Kai Havertz. Edu got praise. Even though, funny thing is about Kai Havertz is literally the people who back Kai Havertz right now were saying, why the hell are we going to sign Kai Havertz? A week later, Kai Havertz signs, "Oh, I've always liked Kai Havertz. He's fantastic. He fits exactly the project that we need. He fits everything. He fits the bill." Seriously, they turn on a dime. It's the same sort of people that will sit here and anything that this our sports director, director of football, anything he does straight away, regardless of what it is, fans are so quick to get in the comments and say, "Oh, fantastic work. I love you, John. You're a world-class businessman." Okay, then, so despite the fact that he's not actually, like, he was in panic stations last season when we lost to Brighton and Brentford. He was in panic stations. Oh, shit. Quick. Get someone in that's going to stop these batterings from happening. So he literally went into panic stations, overpaid for players because he couldn't get those business dealings done earlier in the window. But because he does the actions, everyone's got to, praise. It's his job. It's his job. I don't sit there at work, right, selling an item of clothing to a customer as a bare minimum and have an army of people following me around with signs and banners and fireworks and pyrotechnics and go, "Yay, he sold an item of clothing to a customer. Whee! Love it." I don't get that praise. Why are we praising people for just doing their job? Just do your job and get on with it. It's when we have any acceptance to people not doing the job as the bare minimum, it's when they don't do the job. Like not signing a player in time for the pre-season tour. Because whilst you got players training in America, playing games in America, getting the Ten Hag system and identity under the belts, right? They're getting drilled up on it. You want as many games as possible with those players training for the new system. You want as many players as possible playing with the new identity. They have had since the 10th of June to sort out key targets. There's 3 key signings. They have only sealed 2. Andre Onana is desperate to get on this tour. We're all desperate for him to get on this tour. We've had the news say that he's not going to fly in until later this week to complete his medical, that they want to get a visa for him to join the tour. Now, I don't know if it's possible for them to do this, where if we sign a player whilst we're on tour, that player can go join the tour. I don't know if that's possible. I don't know if there's like a squad submission that they have to do for that. But if there is, then any any increment to this board trying to spin a positive on a player not making it for the US tour, I won't be buying it. I will not be buying it. So we just passed the hour mark. Just past the hour mark on my seemingly 1 hour long rant, but it just feels like, from what I've been seeing, from what I've been hearing, has seriously been frustrating me so much. And it's like I should be happy. Maybe I should be happy, because we got Andre Onana, but it's just like I don't see it for the fine detail. I just pay attention to the bigger picture. And what the bigger picture is stating is that there's a severe case of incompetency in full swing at my club again, yet again, in a key area, in a key part of this club's history, that there's incompetency, and there's people that are making excuses for the incompetencies, and there's no active change to fix it. So I'm feeling very frustrated right now. I'm feeling very frustrated. And sometimes I see some other United fans, they are equally as frustrated. It's like Mark Goldbridge again. He is spot on when he says that it's not genius. Andre Onana getting Andre Onana for £47 million and Mason Mount for £65 million. Oh, that's not genius, guys. That's not genius. The transfer window has been shocking. It has been absolutely shocking. We are approaching a month and a half with the transfer window being open. We've signed 2 players. We've not even confirmed the second signing. We're only starting to put pressure and priority on the third signing. Some clubs are playing pre-seasons with 3 signings done, key signings. They're playing pre-seasons. Now, some other clubs are in bad situations as well. I mean, Tottenham Hotspur, they've signed a key player in James Maddison. They've signed a new goalkeeper. They've signed, striker? I think it's a striker that they've signed, or a winger. Can't remember which one it is. Pretty sure they got him on a free transfer as well. But they've not signed any centre-backs. And one of the biggest focal points for this summer for Tottenham's perspective is to signing centre-backs, because the defence is not good enough. But they've still not done it. And now the Tottenham fans are getting really frustrated again. Manchester United were going on tour without a striker. Where's the outrage? Where is the outrage? I'm going to just quickly read through with the Fabrizio Romano show from the United stand earlier, where the United stand have posted some comments from the interview that they did. I'm just going to quickly read through what he's essentially said on the show. It's quite a lot here, Jesus. So yeah, they're saying Rasmus Højlund remains the favourite and easiest striker option for MUFC. Contacts were made with Atalanta in the last few days, but no bid is official as of yet. So maybe the bids that were reportedly submitted weren't true. Perhaps just more spin. Maybe just some more spin. Atalanta's realistic asking price for Højlund is around 70 million euros. So again, about 65 million pounds as a full package, which that's what people are contemplating. Is that too much? Personally, for me, it is. I don't know how everyone else feels about that. There are 2 reasons for Erik ten Hag's changing the captaincy. Obviously, hope to find a solution for Harry Maguire, as he wants a captain that is always on the pitch. But I mean, it took him a whole season. To do that. So it's a bit late, Eric. It's a little bit late. You could have done that at the very turn of you coming into the manager's position. Could have done that. The fans knew that that should have been the case. No one wanted Harry Maguire as captain, but he's still stuck with him. Now, some people call it ruthlessness that he's stripped Maguire of his captaincy this summer, but some others will call it cowardice because he stuck by him the first time, even though everyone, well, for the first season, even though everybody said, no, he's not good enough. And it's interesting that Harry Maguire shouldn't be on the pitch. It should be on the bench for as many games as he was last season. That Erik ten Hag felt like he didn't feel inclined to actually switch the captaincy over mid-season. Because Bruno Fernandes, it was quite clear and obvious that Bruno Fernandes was going to be captain moving forward, because you never, ever, ever, ever in the history of football stick by a captain who is the captain for your club when he does not play any games. Never. Never, never, never. So it was obvious that it was going to be Bruno Fernandes who's going to get captaincy. Now, the official decision has still not been made yet. That Fabrizio said that he's a major candidate to be the next captain. I think everyone sort of votes as Fernandes being the favourite to be the next captain. Personally, he is my option, my go-to choice, because he's had it for a season and has had a positive impact on the team. There were a couple of offers from Saudi clubs for Bruno in the past couple of months, but they were instantly turned down by the player himself, which is understandable. I mean, not everybody is going to want to go to Saudi Arabia. So for anyone that's worried about Saudi coming in for all the key players and just signing them for free, like a session of free willy or something. Thankfully, I don't think we're going to have that situation, not at least for another 2-3 years at least. But if they continue the trend going to next summer, or even in January as well, by the way, even if they're going to January, I think it's the only time when anyone should be like, oh, big competition from the Middle East for signing players, a legitimate competition, is when they start signing all the younger players as well, and they start acquiring academy prospects. That's when you can say, okay, Saudi League's on the come up now, big time. And that's all credit to them if they can make it stick. And it's literally what it's going to be. So if they can make it stick, then happy days for them. At least by then, what it's going to do is going to actually probably provoke the Premier League to pull the finger out, right, and start taking competition seriously, because the Premier League at the moment, as it stands, is unrivaled. There's a reason why people sit here and say that the Premier League's the real ESL, or that they sit here and say that the Premier League is the best league in the world, just because it makes most money. It doesn't classify as the best league in the world and say, well, any team can win any game on any day. Whilst that's true, that's kind of the same thing in all the other leagues. There's kind of the same thing in all the other leagues. The only difference between our league and the other league is that all the teams in the Premier League get a massive cash injection every single season. Teams getting relegated get parachute payments that some of the top teams in other top leagues wish they could get. And that's why, by the way, some clubs are genuinely not that upset when they get relegated, because they get massive payments. And that's why you then see them come straight back up again, because of the unbelievable amounts of money that they get. So we'll probably see Norwich City end up getting promoted next season again or something, perhaps. As for what else Fabrizio said here, MUC are very open with Scott McTominay. They're not desperate. They are not desperate, and they're happy to keep him. But if an important offer comes in, they will consider it. Oh, Jesus Christ. Oh, Jesus Christ. This is not the sort of news that you want to be reading, especially after the rant that I've been on. especially after the run that I've been on. It's not the news I want to be reading. They're not desperate, but they're happy to keep him. Please reward mediocrity. Reward mediocrity harder, please. Just make it as obvious as you can. Rate Scott McTominay, and I've seen this with other fans as well, saying Scott's a good player. I promise you he's not. He is not, like, fans need to understand that with a player, that when you say a player is good, ask yourself, well, why is he good? Why is he good? Why do I rate a player as good? What is it about his game that is good? And with what he does good in the game, what does he do better than other players in the league in that position for what he has to offer? Can we say he's great with the ball at his feet? No, because he has less attempted passing than pretty much everyone else in the league. Can't say he's good at defending. Worse defensive stats than a lot of other defensive midfield comparisons. You could say the only stat that he's probably quite good with in comparison, if you're going to say defensive midfielder, if you're going to say Scott's defensive midfielder, is Scott McTominay as a goal scorer from deep is probably the only thing where he is higher up a list on comparisons. Some people will say, well, Scott McTominay's better than Declan Rice. And I've seen this comparison. People are seriously comparing Scott McTominay to Declan Rice. Don't get me wrong. Declan Rice is a good player. He is a good player. He's not world class. And £100 million is way too much for Declan Rice. He is a £50 million player at best. He is not world class. Jack of all trades, master of none. Scott McTominay could not lick the chewing gum from underneath Declan Rice's boots. He could not do that. He is nowhere near that level. But people are drawing up comparisons. You shameless bastards. You absolute shameless bastards. The lot of you. Shameless. The Scott McTominay stands saying, I'm pretty sure that if Casemiro's had a bad game, someone somewhere has said that Scott McTominay should be starting ahead of Casemiro. What is it? Ricky from the United stand, when he occasionally comes on and saying, who would you rather keep, Rashford or Bruno, or McTominay and I can't remember who the other player was. Oh, no, that's it. McTominay and Weghorst. I'm pretty sure it's McTominay and Weghorst was the other comparison. And he said, oh, McTominay and Weghorst, without a shadow of a doubt. I'm like, this guy has some interesting takes, but this one was not interesting. It wasn't interesting. It was pain. It was absolute pain. But each to their own, right? You're free to think what you want to think, right? And some people need to have the balls to say what they think rather than what someone else thinks, right? And it's the thing. Be your own independent thinker, basically. That's just a simple premise of life, basically. But yeah, Scott McTominay, Jesus Christ. Like, seriously, can't get rid of Scott McTominay soon enough. As for another player that's on a sell list for a lot of people is Anthony Martial. Apparently his situation is very quiet there. Not really surprised. Wages are way too high. The guy's always injured. And probably the club are not desperate to sell him because he's not constant. There's no banging on the drums from United saying Anthony Martial's available for sale. Come place your bids. We accept. We've got an asking price of about 25 million. No one's coming to the table because they've not openly said that Martial we are going to sell Martial. And do you know why they've not said that? They've not said that because they're not sure about how many strikers they're going to be able to sign. Because they know that Rasmus Højlund at the start of the summer, like you heard it before the season ended, there's a lot of talk, there's a lot of speed, a lot of energy to sell Martial, and the club was probably on that train. Then they saw the prices of everybody and thought, oh shit, actually, retract that statement. We want to keep Martial. So everyone's still thinking, but that's what they did. That's what they did. They unofficially declared Martial was not going to be for sale. They unofficially declared it. So the only people who factually probably know that Martial's not for sale is the squad themselves, and probably the manager and the director of football. But everyone else is supposedly probably still speculating. It's like, oh, but who's going to sign Martial? Who's going to come in and buy Martial? So everyone's probably asking a completely irrelevant question, because if we sign Rasmus Højlund, I don't trust this board to go sign anyone else. For me, I would have said, well, you can sign Rasmus Højlund. That's cool. Go and loan Joao Felix. Some people say, well, there's no real point to loaning in Joao Felix because essentially you're just doing a stopgap. But it's like, but that's kind of what you're stuck with. Stopgaps. That's what you're dealing with this club. Stopgaps. Plasters are being used to patch up axe wounds. You're going to get this. Joao Felix, because everyone's so adamant about there's no money. Well, okay, then, so we can't spend this summer. So what do? Do we sit around and not sign anyone? And just like, oh, well, we'll spend a bit of money on this player, we'll spend a bit of money on that player. Now, we've got the finances to loan a player in that would genuinely improve the quality of the squad and would help us for this season. But because we don't fancy the idea that we've only got a player for one season, is the reason why we don't sign him on loan. But instead of actually saying, well, let's go for a striker that we can sign permanently, probably have to be cheap. A cheap option, a cheap alternative. Now, you could do that. Instead of loaning a player where they say, oh, no, it's not worth loaning a player in. Okay, then, well, you know you need another striker, so go sign one. Yeah, about that. We're not going to sign anybody. Right. So, according to you, not signing a second striker on any basis is better than having a lone player that improves the squad for that season. You're meaning to tell me that? Right. Cool. Okay. At least I know, at least we know whereabouts we're at now. So essentially, the club have no idea what their priorities are, or if they do, they're certainly not for the betterment of the club. So MUFC will push to get Dean Henderson to Nottingham Forest. Deal done. Henderson does not want to sit on the bench. There's a possibility it could be done this week. There's a possibility, so there's no guarantee. It's no guarantee like it should be. There's a possibility. Now, can never ever deal if you're Man United. Remember, you can never deal in guarantees, only possibilities. And it's ironic because when you look at Manchester United fans discussing transfers and all of that, when it comes to transfer malarkey, and you see a Manchester United conversation, usually nothing is factually based because no one knows. Everyone's doing fantasy teams for Manchester United, right? And that's the most it will ever be, because we don't deal in guarantees, we deal in possibilities. Galatasaray's offer for Fred was around 5 to 6 million euros. MUC didn't consider such a low price. As to be expected, no club on earth would consider a 5 to 6 million euro FIFA Fred, I don't think that's under any dispute. Sofian Amrabat is a possibility. There's no bid at the moment. I think that was another point that I wanted to discuss. So Sofian Amrabat, interest is getting strong. I've done a video on Sofian Amrabat. That's one of my better performing videos, by the way. So go check it out and like the video, like the thing. But Sofian Amrabat, I said he's a cheap steal. I called him the cheap steal because the only publicized transfer fee that I've seen out there is 26 million. So I'm thinking, right, so based off of that, you can roughly structure around what sort of money you're going to set aside to, go and do the Sofian Amrabat deal. So go and take a package somewhere around 30 million for him. It's not like you're dealing with a title contending Serie A team. You're dealing with a mid-table Serie A team. Fiorentina do not go compete for Serie A titles. They compete for other trophies on the side, little side quests, but they're a mid-table team. You can bargain. You can bargain. So go and bargain. Go get the player. He's an important asset. He would prove to be vital in progressing the squad throughout next season. Go and get it done. And here's the thing. Their interest is real, but there are no negotiations yet. There's no contacts. There's nothing. Absolutely nothing. Only interest. The second that another club goes in for Sofian Amrabat, that deal will get done within weeks. Potentially, if it's a fast-track deal, potentially even days. But Manchester United won't clear first base with the interest. They won't clear first base. They'll get to second base and they'll be like, oh no, I'm stuck. What do we do now? Well, you could stick a bid in. Just an idea, just a thought. You could stick a bid in. But I don't think we're going to see that happen because they're too busy trying to think of new ways to describe Manchester United's interest for Sofian Amrabat. They'll literally go through an entire dictionary or an entire thesaurus of words to describe registering interest in a player before they actually get to legitimizing the interest and starting to open negotiations. By that time, the player's already gone and they're off the market now. Like, this happens a lot. It happens a lot, a mad amount of times. But yes, Sofian Amrabat's possibility. There's no bid at the moment. With HOJLAND being a big priority, the interest is there. Obviously, something that we knew already, but nothing concrete yet. It will take some time before we see the Andre Onana official announcement. Yeah, that's something we've already discussed. Zion Suzuki to MUFC is a concrete possibility. He's not the only option as a backup keeper, but contacts were made. The player is excited by the idea of joining United. So some positive news there. There's some positive news. We can be positive on that. We can be positive that the backup goalkeeper option is interested in a proposed move to Manchester United, but it would just solely take the club materialising said interest. Whether we actually do that or not, I don't think we're going to see that anytime soon. It's going to be late in the window if we start to legitimise interest in someone like a Zion Suzuki. But let me know if you would like to see Zion Suzuki come into the club and be backup goalkeeper, or whether you think we should opt for another alternative. But MUFC have contacts about a potential deal for Axel Disasi, but they are unable to commit to an offer due to uncertainty over Rasmus HOJLAND's proper asking price. Something tells me that Manchester United have never heard of multitasking before. Like, surely there's not one person who does negotiations. I swear there's got to be an entire team that's structured and built to operate to working up to 3 deals at the same time. But we're prioritizing one transfer. And I'll tell you what, there is more evidence to me that this board is incompetent. And you can tell if you read between the lines. A club feels it's necessary to prioritize transfer targets. So they're picking and choosing as to who to sign first. Whereas you'll see other clubs are doing all sorts of different deals at the same time. They'll be at different stages. That's bound to happen. Different deals will happen at different speeds. But Manchester United have mastered the ability to do one transfer at a time. So read between the lines and you will see that this club is enjoying the ability to work on one transfer at a time. And that's one of the reasons why we get so left behind. Other clubs will go do multiple deals at a time. Man United won't do that. We will not do that. And that's one of the bigger tellings that your board isn't competent is why do you pick and choose who's priority signing? You can have key signings, absolutely. You can have key signings and say that's a big target to get. Well, you can sign other players at the same time. You can sell players at the same time. There's so many different things, but it's like it's one person doing it rather than a team because there's so much on the to-do list. But it's like the person who's in charge is like, he's got the list in front of him, right? And everyone else who works for him is trying to read that list as like, oh, is there something I can do? Is there something I can help out with? And John Murtaugh's like, no, don't look at my list. My list is special to me, not for your eyes. And it's like, why? Why don't you split the tasks? Why don't you give more people power and responsibility to go and actually at least try and do business? It's like it's a one-man army trying to do the work for United, but they are absolutely unequivocally trash at their job. So we are so short-handed. We don't even have a team to do transfer deals. We don't even have a team. That's mental. But Disasi, about what was it, £35 million asking price from AS Monaco for Disasi. I think I addressed that before. Would I sign Disasi for 35 million? It's ironic that some people, key figures on the Maguire sell prospect, say that 50 million is unrealistic, so they might accept to working with a 35 million pound deal. 35 million pounds, you can sign Disasi for. Maguire replacement, 35 million pounds. Happy days. There it is. So there's your plan, Manchester United. Disasi, a target, defender, centre-back. Maguire's on the way out. We all know that. Sell Maguire, 35 million. 50 million is not going to happen. And Disasi, 35 million, he comes in. Adequate Maguire replacement. Because Disasi's not going to be benching anyone. He's not going to be benching anyone. He's literally going to be the bench option himself. So it's just a no-brainer deal for me. Any decision for Ahmad will be made after pre-season, unless one of the clubs interested. Amad Diallo. He is my choice of backup to Sancho, or I say to Sancho, to Anthony actually, because I think Sancho should be playing off the left. But yeah, backup to Anthony, offers a similar game. Some people will say that they prefer Palestri because he offers something different. But by the looks of what different is not what Erik ten Hag wants. Henceforth, Ricardo Palestri has had a limited amount of game time. So, yeah, I think that sort of explains its own situation, basically. Amad Diallo. But yeah, I don't know how everyone else feels about the Palestri Ahmad situation as well. But yeah, something else you can let me know on what you think about that, whether you'd opt to go with Amad Diallo staying at the club or Facundo Palestri, because I think I said this on yesterday's stream, that the two players at the same level of their careers, at the same position, with potentially the same sort of roadmap going into first team, and you can't really make it work with two players doing the same thing unless Palestri or Ahmad goes to the other side and they both come into the team together. You're not getting both of them in. So decide, who is it going to be, Palestri or Ahmad? Personally, I would go with Ahmad, but others might go with Palestri. It's entirely up to you. So there was also people talking about Andre and Arnold's go flying to. So yeah, no. That's just a report saying that he's going to fly in today to do his medical tomorrow, but that's not happening. He's supposedly flying in later this week. So they'll probably say, well, he'll fly in tomorrow. If he could do his medical tomorrow as well, that'd be great. Brilliant. Marcus Rashford's on his new deal. His club statement soon, valid until June 2028. Just scrolling through here, seeing what else we have. If I haven't got anything else that I can address here, then I might as well wrap it up. Jesus Christ, just seeing there, 1 hour and 31 minutes. I've gone on for a very long time. Then again, I did say that I would be uploading videos today, which I kind of ended up not doing because wasn't around for the morning and was doing other things throughout the afternoon, basically. Couldn't fulfill my end of the bargain, so I thought I'd make it up to you with a longer stream. And maybe, just maybe, people would prefer me doing streams instead of uploading hundreds of thousands of video uploads where it's impossible for the algorithm to keep up. Got Shazam. How are you doing, Shazam? Big ups to you. Keep up the hard work. Great show. Thank you very much for the support, buddy. Hope you're all well. Hope you're doing well. Hope things are all good with you. But yeah, so I'm about to actually wrap up the show because I've been streaming for a very long time. Very, very long time. But yes, I'm thinking of wrapping up the show. Apologies to anyone who got bored of me ranting about all different things. Just simply because it's seriously just frustrating for what I demand of my football club, because I actually love Manchester United Football Club. I want it to be the Premier League title challenging team that goes deep in Champions League, that goes to win Champions League, that has these amazing achievements and moments that you savor and remember for the rest of your life. And it's like, it feels, because it's the last biggest achievement that we had with the Premier League title in 2013, it always keeps, like, me, I was there watching it. I was watching that moment, and it was a surreal moment for me, because that was the last Premier League title. I would never have expected it to have been the last Premier League title that I would see. Fingers crossed that it still isn't and won't remain to be the last Premier League title I've ever seen. But I want to see and feel those moments again, those emotions. I want to feel that same adrenaline rush that you get when you watch your team go right up to the very highest of the highs in football. And I think that's the same thing as to what most other fans want to do. But really, it's just about how we get there. And there's a lot of fans, a lot of people who they want to see the titles, they want to see the success, but they're not got the right mindset from the fans' perspective to actually demand and expect to see those titles and trophies and moments come in response, such as accepting mediocrity at a club where they know they don't have to be successful to appease the fans. The sooner we can force a narrative that accepting top four is the trophy, the second we can, as a united voice, as a united fan base, say top four is not acceptable as as success is not. We want success. We want the best of the best. When you go to the highest high in the pyramids, you've got to you've basically got to exceed the expectations of a club like Real Madrid, which is literally a club where they say that winning the Champions League, that's not a target to them. It's a must win. You either win the Champions League or whoever's in charge, or your job's on the line. I want to be at that level. I want to be able to support my club at that level. Now, now that's what I would love to see. I would absolutely love to see that. Some people might feel about it differently, but that's just the way that I feel. But anyways, I'm going to love you and leave you, and probably unwind for the rest of the evening and enjoy a nice long night's sleep, especially after having to wake up to my alarm at 7:30 this morning. Maybe I should get in the habit of waking up earlier. I should get back in the habit of waking up earlier again, because I keep doing this where I wake up at like 10:30 or 11 o'clock. I'll get out of bed. I'm just like, oh, so I could have done loads of stuff in the morning, but my lazy backside decides, well, actually, you're going to sleep in to 11 o'clock and then not do anything until the afternoon. Well, no, get your ass out of bed in the morning and start doing and attack the day from the very first minute that you're awake. So it could be a bit of a shock to the system at times, but I think it's all for the better. But anyways, massive big ups to all of those who've tuned in to the stream. I really appreciate all the support for all of those who've dropped in comments, who have liked the stream, who have subscribed whilst we're live. If we have actually had any subscriptions, I don't think we have, but any form of support, even those who are just tuning in to watch, and to big up the to push up the channel watch time and getting us closer to channel targets, shall we say. But I'm not really too fussed about setting channel targets, because I don't really do this as a desperation thing. I do this because I like to do it. I love to do it. I enjoy talking about football and rambling on about it, and it helps bring out my personality a little bit more. Some people might not like my personality, but that's each to their own. But yes, big ups to all of those that have watched, who have liked, who have subscribed, and we'll be seeing y'all again real soon. Thanks for watching, and good night.